Welcome to Fueling Your Legacy, hosted by Samuel Knickerbocker. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a new, stronger foundation essential in creating your legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. Welcome back to Fuel Your Legacy, and today we're going to have a wonderful guest on. Her name is Laura Lohk. Is that said properly?
Yeah.
All these interesting names with too many consonants. No, I can't really speak. My name's Knickerbocker. So, no, but Laura, she was born in a smaller country of Europe called Estonia. Just grew up really kind of not wealthy, you could say, and in more of a poorer situation. And as she grew up, she struggled with some different bouts of anxiety, depression, different things that were struggling for her in her life. And is now she's becoming a therapist, or has become a therapist, and is life coaching as well, or coaching people on how to overcome some of these anxiety and depression aspects of life. I'm super excited to have her on. I met her on Instagram. It's amazing the people you can meet on Instagram if you just are willing to open up your eyes and start looking for different people and the things that people have accomplished. It's my favorite part of Instagram, is just going on and seeing the absolute amazing people out there who are sharing their story. And then I want to bring them on here on Fuel Your Legacy, because I see aspects of what they're doing that they're choosing and have become able to live their legacy and build their legacy. And so I want to bring them on here for you guys to see what that looks like, how to get started, and really what fuels them from a perspective of why are they doing what they're doing. So with that being said, Laura, super grateful for you. I know that it's not early over there. Was it about 8 o'clock p.m.?
No, it's 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock.
Oh man, daylight savings time is bad here. So yeah, so she is in Europe right now, in England. So just super excited to have you here and you taking the time to stay up late and do this.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm really grateful for this opportunity to have a chat with you. Absolutely.
Yeah, if you could go ahead and just introduce yourself, maybe shed a little bit more on your background and different places you've lived, how you ended up in the UK doing what you're doing.
Yes, so my name is Laura. It's actually spelled Laura Lohk. Only because I'm from Estonia. So yes, I'm from Estonia. It's a small country in Europe. I was born there and I lived there for 19 years. So I went to school there as well. So yeah, my background is quite challenging because I was born to a very poor family. I didn't have a father. I just had a mother who obviously had to look after me, had to still go to work. So mostly I spent my time on my own after school, looking after myself from a very, very early age. And obviously my mother also had issues with, her own stuff, her own mental health. She went through quite a lot of depression. We went through a lot of financial issues. So there were times when I had to study at a candlelight because, there was no money for electricity. We had to move a lot because there was no money to pay rent. We went through sometimes with, sort of no food. These sort of quite a lot of challenges, in my early age and teenagers. And then at some point, I just got to really a point when I was kind of depressed myself. I still managed to somehow go to school. I wasn't very academically very, very clever in school. And I was quite often told that, you're never going to achieve anything because, you can't do this and you're not very clever. And because of financial situation, at the time, there was no way of me going to the university. But despite of that, lots of things happened that I found a way to come to the UK. as an international volunteer, and then from then onwards I even managed to find a way to study law, and it was the hardest thing that I could study in a different language. And then I realized that I just wanted really to help people in a sort of similar situation. So I retrained as a therapist, and for a year and a half now, I have my own therapy and coaching practice. And I also do some work for the National Health Service in the UK.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's so interesting. This just sprang to my mind. This may be random. I have no idea what it was like in Estonia. When I spent time in Scotland and Ireland, so for the American audience, I don't know that we really can relate to this, what I'm going to bring up, but we in America, we generally pay for our power usage, our electricity usage, our gas usage, just like on auto pay, or maybe we send a check in the mail or something, but it's after we've used it, right? Well, when I was in Scotland and Ireland, they would make you go to, like, you had almost like a USB is what it looked like, and you had to go down to the shop and buy electricity, basically, buy the minutes of electricity, and then you take that same USB and you'd go plug it in your house, and that's how you got electricity there. Like, if you didn't go pay for it, you didn't have electricity. So I don't know how it was in Estonia, if that's similar or not, but I remember doing that, and it was crazy. Like, if you ran out of power, you just ran out of power, you were out of hot water, you were out of everything. It's like, crap, how do I get, it's the middle of the night, it's winter, you have to go at whatever time to get power, because it's just like, it just runs out. It's not like it just keeps going, you can pay later. Anyways, was it like that in Estonia at all, or how did they do power there?
No, it was, in Britain you have two ways. You can do it like with a stick, like you experienced there. But it's most of places you kind of use it, then you just pay it monthly. But I think it was the same way in Estonia at the time. I mean, it was, obviously because I was so young when all of this happened, I can't really remember, but it was just a sort of difficult time. Estonians' winter can be very dark and very, very cold. It can be -30 there in a winter, and in the summer it can be obviously warm as well. But it's just the winter time can be really dark. So I can kind of see when you don't have electricity, you are in darkness, basically.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. So another thing that I loved about what you said was you saw. You went to the UK on kind of a service type visa. Were you getting paid for that service, or what was that aspect of you coming over? What did that look like? What was the conditions as far as, like, were you able to earn income? Were you not able to earn income? How did that work as far as providing for yourself?
So the project, it was actually a project. It was paid by European Union. So you had to have a voluntary organization in Estonia who sends you there, and voluntary organization in the UK that kind of welcomes you as such. So it's a project, you have to write it. Not everyone can, you can apply for it, but that doesn't mean that you get it, because the demand is really, really high. And I was in a good position, because I was in Estonia at the age of 15. I think I started volunteering in Estonian Union for Child Welfare. So I had a voluntary organization, but the project process, how to write it up and how to prove that you're the right person for them, it took about a year. So it was a very long process. But I came as a volunteer, and I worked at a very sort of poor area in Wales. And I was a volunteer, so I was, my living was provided for. I had a place to live in a sort of shared house, and I just got £200 a month. So that was the only kind of money that as a volunteer you had. So, and obviously you weren't able to work extra. That was kind of placement for you. So it was for 11 months. and it allowed me to learn the language better, because I wasn't very fluent in English at the time. But yeah, it was a good opportunity, and that was the only way I could really come to this country, because there was, there were times I had no money to buy a loaf of bread. There was no chance I could afford a plane ticket to the UK at the time.
Yeah, sure. So, and I don't know exactly your age as far as like timeline, but when I was there, I met a lot of people who almost wasn't quite refugees, but they definitely were migrating to the UK for a better life, from like Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, all these places that just they didn't feel like they had a great economic situation. So it wasn't just you, like your family, but what was the grander economic struggles while you were in Estonia? What was that like?
Well, I was still born at Russian, so Soviet Union time. It was 1989 when it's kind of all collapsed. So I still remember some sort of quite difficult times when you had to queue. You had like a vouchers for bread. You kind of give them in to get a loaf of bread. I remember standing in a queue with my grandmother, kind of waiting for bread, and the borders were closed still, so there were nothing really to buy at the shops. But that very quickly changed after the Soviet Union crash, and I think Estonia very quickly developed in terms of, for example, internet banking. They kind of skipped the stage of the checks, I think, that we still have in the UK, but we kind of went from really difficult times, Soviet Union times, to kind of massive development. So I can't say that there were any development issues as such, but it's just at the time when I finished school at the age of 19, universities were you had to pay to get to university, and you had to have good grades, and I didn't finish with good grades. Mm-hmm. So there was, for me, financially, there was no way of going to the university. And Estonia, it's only 1.3 million people, so it's very small. I just, for me, because of the sort of struggles that I went through, all I could see was, actually, I really wanted to come to United States, but at the time the borders were closed because of the whole terrorism issues. And I always tell this funny story that when people ask me, how come you ended up in UK? And I said, well, I wanted to go to the USA. I wanted to go to New York, and I ended up in Wales. That's how I kind of start my story with them. So yeah, it wasn't, that, Estonia is a very beautiful country. I still have all my family there. It's just because it was small, and because of my background, all I could think about is I just want to start again. I want to go somewhere where I have more opportunities, and I really wanted to speak English. And that was another reason why it was kind of just the UK or sort of USA or sort of these sort of countries.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that. I think it's just it's incredible to me to see and just hear people's stories of where they started their life and the things that they can remember. My life has been really, I've had my hard times. If you ever go watch my video on my website, samknickerbocker.com, then you can kind of see a little bit of video representation of my childhood, where it came from, like where I was and how I developed over the years. But sometimes I think my story, not necessarily as good or bad, but just like it was hard. And then I love hearing other people, like the things that they go through to get to where they are. That's fascinating to me, because I haven't had a life that I don't feel like any part of my life was really based on like a lottery system of like, well, I'm going to put this in, I'm going to put a year's worth of effort in to see if I might get selected to go have a better life. It's just kind of, for me, it's kind of crazy to think about that way, because I operated so much from the position of my parents. My whole life, they said, hey, look, if you want to do it, you can do it. Go figure out a way, but like there's nothing that could stop you or nothing can hold you back. And so because I've just always operated that way, that's just how I think about life. And so it's cool to hear other people's experiences, because they were able to, against a lot of odds, become successful and go where they go. And that's what's it's kind of the next thing about that that's really cool is, like, I guess before we get in, I'm curious, when did you first recognize that anxiety, depression, some of this stuff was in your life, and how much of it, we kind of mentioned this a little bit as far as it being dark in the winter, how much of do you think your depression, anxiety was like location based as far as weather patterns and light and stuff versus just natural anxiety or depression?
I would say it was a combination of things. I mean, the darkness, because obviously winters are long in Estonia and it's very, very dark. You know, you're going to wake up, it's completely dark, and you go to school and you come back and it's dark again. So you know, that kind of didn't help. But I think it was accumulation of, you know, sort of various issues that happened. You know, my mother's sort of difficult times as well, and I, you know, witnessing sort of my mother going through some really dark times and being on my own as a child. You know, when I was you know, I remember that when I was 8 years old, you know, being completely on my own, and then yes, the accumulation of, you know, it wasn't that it was just a little small period of my life. It was, as far as I was, you know, remember to an age of 19, it was accumulation of that. But I think I didn't, Estonians are very sort of, I would say, quite closed and quite cold the way they are, in a sense that they don't open up and talk about mental health the way I think it is talked about in the UK, certainly at the moment. So I suppose I had no idea what to call it. I just know that, you know, I got to a point at the age of, I think, 16, 17, when I just didn't want to get up in the morning. I missed a lot of school. I didn't smile. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I certainly didn't. There were times I didn't really speak to my mother that much. It was just this. Got to a point when I thought, what is the point? I suppose I would explain this as being, you know, finding myself at a rock bottom. That for me there was just two options. I either stay there and probably not last very long, or you know, I do my absolute, anything that I can do, whatever it might be, to get out of that dark hole. You know, for me, you know, I found school extremely hard because I just didn't get it. For me, academically, it was so difficult. And you know, I had schoolmates just said, you know, what do you mean you go into the UK? You can't speak English. You have no money. Don't be so silly. Just, you know, get a job and you'll be fine. You know, it was constantly these doubts, and so there was quite a negative atmosphere around me as well, in terms of sort of my schoolmates and just sort of people generally, the darkness, the sort of general situations. I think it was just sort of accumulation of all of these external factors.
So when you got to the UK, obviously you did your like your 8 months to a year volunteering, but what made you want to go into being a lawyer? And like, what was the objective there? Was it just to really learn the English language a lot deeper? Was it to prove that you could do something hard to yourself? Like, what was the goal of going down that route?
So there were two reasons, really. I think even, you know, because of my sort of background of where I came from, I always found that I was standing up for people who were either being bullied or were a bit, you know, maybe different and didn't fit in. And when I I know that when somebody bullied them or they found themselves isolated, I almost wanted to go and help them out. And then obviously I did my voluntary work in Estonian Union for Child Welfare, where we did a lot of work to kind of help young people in a sort of vulnerable situations. And so there were really two reasons. So when I got to the UK, obviously I did 11 months of voluntary work, and then I had to wait, I think, another sort of year and a half before I could apply for the university here, because that's where the rules, I was foreigner. And there were really, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I have to admit, I really didn't know. So I kind of went through the prospectus of the university, you know, sort of all the lectures and stuff. And I thought, so what could I study? Firstly, that would be the hardest thing that I could study in English language, which is not my first language, and which would also be interesting to me, and what I could do to help people. So I literally just went through, I was like, no, oh, law, that sounds the hardest thing that I could study. So I could literally show all the doubters that yes, I can do that. And obviously it was important to me that I can help people as well. I really wanted to become a criminal lawyer. So I thought, you know, I put all the, you know, criminals away and all that. But obviously in reality, in the UK, you kind of have to, it's a quite a complicated way to become a lawyer. So you kind of go into a job wherever there is a job. There wasn't that many criminal lawyer jobs available at the time, so I kind of went into different type of law. But yeah, the main reasons were just because I just wanted to show all the doubters that I absolutely can study law, and I wanted to help people.
I love that. That is, for me, as I've done interviews over the course of time and just different people and different life backgrounds, I've seen that being really one of the key components of people I would consider like champions, people who just like, they get stuff done and they're determined, they're focused, they have their eye on where they're going. And a lot of it comes down to rather than trying to find the easier way out, the easier way to survive in England, maybe learn because I know a lot of people who came from these countries, Eastern Europe, and moved to the UK. And a lot of them, they look for just like the easiest way to earn money. They didn't try really, and it's nothing bad about them, I'm not putting them down at all, but they just didn't really go for it. But then there's a select few who say, no, I'm going to do the absolute hardest thing. And I think that's one thing that in each of our lives, if we can learn to develop not just the desire, but the actual like action to go find out, say, what's the hardest thing, whether it's on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, annual basis, lifetime basis, and what's the hardest thing I can think of doing? That's the one I'm going to do, right? And some part of it is probably to silence the naysayers and say, look, I did it. I was successful regardless of what you think. But I think what's nice about the other side of that, and this is where my message really, I try and hit it home, is there's the side of it that's saying, I want to prove them wrong. I want to prove them that I can do it. But also think of how much hope you end up giving to all of the people at home who think they didn't think they could do it. They didn't think they could go to the UK and not know English and then learn English and become that. They didn't think that they were special enough or had the right skills to do it. And then you could turn around and say, look, it's possible. Like, come with me, come do this as well, because it's possible. And that's where, for me, that's what really just turns me on, gets me excited, is when I know that because I was successful, I can now inspire somebody else to go do something more with their life that they wouldn't have otherwise done if they didn't have that example of success initially. So that's something I think for everybody listening, think about it right now. What is the hardest thing I could do today? And then just go do it. Go commit to it. Go tell people you're going to do it and then do it. What's the hardest thing you could do today? What's the hardest thing that needs to be done this week? If it's in business, if it's in personal life, if you need to go talk to your spouse, your kid, somebody that you're having a hard time with communicating wise, whatever, what's the hardest thing you can do, and then go full bore directly into it rather than avoiding it. Just do that. If that's all you do, just do the hardest thing you think you could do, and then see where you end up. I love it. Anyways, what are your thoughts? I saw you writing stuff down there. I want to hear your thoughts there.
Yes, I was writing down determination and think outside the box, because I hear it with my clients so often, the words "I can't." And, for example, I work with a lot of people who have long-term health conditions, and it could be, anything like, they could have mobility issues, the Parkinson's disease, fibromyalgia, whatever it might be. And because they remember how it was to do all of these things, it could be that they were using, they used to run a marathon, and now because of the condition, they're not able to do that. And, the first thing they say is, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. And that kind of closes the door to these opportunities and options. And that's, the thinking outside the box and adapting to your new circumstances. We have this amazing brain. We can find a ways to go to space and all of that thing. But when something kind of little challenges happen to our lives, we often almost close off and say, oh, I can't, instead of thinking, okay, I may not be able to do all of the things that I used to do, but what are the things that I can do? So it kind of finding the opportunities. And really the what I suppose got me out of that rock bottom, because I completely remember that I was so depressed and really just didn't, there were parts of me just thought, I just don't see the point of kind of living. I just almost got angry, and not in a negative way angry. I just got almost like this fuel that I was just almost at some point just woke up. I stood up and said, no more. I have to do something, and I will find a way. And I think fueling that determination, because I had two options, either stay where I was in that miserable hole, or I could go other way. And I do say now to my clients that you can think about rock bottom as this negative thing, but at the same time, by definition, if you are at rock bottom, there is nowhere else to go but up. Mm-hmm. So, just find a way, anything. There are so many options. I didn't have the financial issue, financials there. I didn't have, support network. I had barely no friends because, at the age of 18, I was living in one small room which fitted a bed, a desk, and a wardrobe. And I was living in that little room with my mother. I slept in the same bed as my mother. There was no way I could invite my friends over. So, I didn't have a support network. All I had was the absolute burning desire and faith that I have no idea how I'm going to do it, but I know I will. And I think, that kind of, one thing led to another. And I think the determination and thinking outside the box, not thinking, well, I suppose I'll try to achieve this, or I'll try to achieve that. You're thinking, you absolutely decide, this is what I'm going to do, because anything that you want to do, you said that, it's great that you've grown up with this mindset that anything is possible. I just have to find a way, and I have to maybe work hard, and I have to do this and, get my skill set up, or whatever it might be, but that you can do it. And I think that's what I'm really passionate kind of, sharing with my clients and giving them the hope that no matter what your background is, you can, achieve your dreams if you really, really want to, you may just have to, have some self-discipline. You have to maybe work hard. You maybe have to learn some stuff, but you can absolutely achieve it.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree and second all that. Two stories come to my mind that I think are pretty funny. Well, one's really funny. The other one's just a good story. Have you seen the movie Cars, the Cars number 3?
No, I've seen the adverts for it, but I haven't seen the film.
So Cars number 3 is really funny because there's Lightning McQueen, who's this racer, but he's kind of washed up. He's older. The newer cars are faster just because they're built better. They're built to go faster speeds. Well, his trainer is trying to train him how to drive faster, and she's this like the newest sport model of car, and they get into an altercation where he's not feeling like he's heard, she's not feeling like she's heard, so she quits on him. It's like, I'm leaving or whatever. I always looked up to you. I thought you were the nicest person. I always wanted to be like you, and you just shut me down, whatever. So I'm done, right? And in this conversation, there's a question. And she's like, didn't you ever doubt yourself? Like, did you ever think that you wouldn't be able to win? And his answer is just like, no, like I never even thought, like the thought of me not being a racer never crossed my mind, right? And there's so many people in this other car's shoes who they have all the potential. They have everything they need. They're literally the fastest car, the best person at whatever their skill is out there. Yet because they still have that doubt in their mind of like, well, what if it doesn't work out? I'll just be a trainer. What if it doesn't, like I can just do the plan B. The successful people like yourself, there is no plan B. It's just go or die, right? That's just like do or die, right? And so to that note, because I work with a lot of clients and I help them, hopefully I help them, I try to help them get through these mindset processes. And I have a 2.5-year-old, a little boy, his name's Declan. And the other day, I was trying to get him to turn on the lights. And he just needed to like get on his tippy toe and just jump a little bit, and he'd been able to turn on the light. Well, he turned one on and he was trying to do the other one and finally gave up, and he's like crying. I was like, you can do it, cheering him on. And then finally he's like, he says, Dad, I don't want to can. Like, I know I can probably, but I don't want to be able to. And I think that's really where the hang up is for so many people. It's like, you can tell somebody they can do it all they want, but a lot of them, they don't want to can. They don't want to have the ability to do it, because if they have the ability, then they know they're not reaching it. And so I'm curious from a therapist perspective, because you went from being a lawyer, solicitor, to therapy now and coaching. How do you help somebody who's in that situation? How do you help them want to can? How do you help them get to that point where they're like, okay, I actually want to get out. I want to be able to get out. So what do I need to do? How do you make that transition of mindset?
Now that's often very tricky, because sometimes there's sort of secondary gain issues for them. There are, for example, let's say an illness that they get, whenever they were in a past when they were younger and they were ill. That's when they got the the attention from their parents, mm-hmm. and their mind kind of got primed to think that if they're staying ill, that means that they can get all the attention. So they almost don't unconsciously, they don't even realize that they can do something about it. So it's kind of, a lot of the time for me, it's educating my clients about, their mindset, that there is mind and body connection. Yes, it kind of comes to education. And sometimes you can kind of educate them and you can tell them all of these positive stories. But sometimes people, they still either choose to try it out and choose to make the changes, but sometimes they just don't choose that. You kind of, 100%, I can't, a lot of my clients come to me and expecting me to kind of fix them. They expecting this magical wand, a magical pill, me to give them something, so they all of a sudden they're happy, they can run around and never to have any issues again. And I always tell them that, look, if I could fix people, I'd start with Donald Trump and work my way down. That normally makes them laugh, because they kind of understand that I can help them, I can educate them, I can teach them some really helpful tools, I can recommend them some really good positive books. I can send them some amazing positive mindset videos. But if they don't take that step to watch the videos, read the book, do some, sort of work with themselves, because looking after yourself and your well-being is a lifelong commitment. And that's wrong, but very, very often people choose the easy option. They rather go to the doctor and ask for antidepressants instead of working with their issues. So, there are various ways, depending on people, to kind of help them with that. And lots of people get the help and get the idea that they have to do quite a lot of work with themselves. But there are also some people that just choose to stay in that situation, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it is interesting. I've seen it happen over the years, and I do it some of my clients, they come in, I try and help them, and they walk out and they don't want help. But I want to point something out that's super off the wall here, but I loved it. And this goes to anybody who's building their own business like Laura is, or like I am, right? Using modern references is really important, right? It helps build familiarity, right? There's probably 1,000 names she could bring up of people she could start to fix from her childhood, or like political leaders from way back when they, like, that's all that could have happened. But right now she's using the Trump example, right? She could in 6 years from now and 20 years from now, it's going to be a different example, because there's going to be a different person that people are going to relate with. And I think that's so important. Establishing relatability, especially in a therapist or coaching type connection, you have to relate and be able to break through, at least on like a back door. It's almost like a backdoor type of way to get somebody to be positive, is to connect first with what they already think is humorous, what they already have some type of opinion with, and build that relationship of communication and of camaraderie and understanding and being on the same page, because it shifts the tables from as you said, they're coming in looking for some help, right? And looking for this magic pill. It shifts the table from the practitioner and the client. We'll say client. There's another word, but we'll say client for right now. It shifts the tables to now both the client and the practitioner, they're both on the same side, going to accomplish the same goal. And just as she said about her childhood, there was nobody there. She didn't have that camaraderie. She didn't have that connection. And often that's one of the greatest, in my experience going to therapists, that's one of my favorite aspects of it, is you have somebody, if nobody else in the world is on your team, if nobody else understands you, the idea of working with a therapist often is that at least they understand you, at least they're on your team, and they're helping you kind of outline a path or a direction to a desired outcome or goal. And I love that skill. And I don't know if everybody recognized how important that one little joke could be in the whole entire process of therapy. Anyways, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. But that's what I recognize.
Yes, I think so. I think, often, clients kind of, especially the first session, they come to you and then they share some really difficult times of their lives, and they really open up. And sometimes they feel a bit uncomfortable or scared, and kind of, that's one way to to make them feel a bit more comfortable is, that's the one kind of little joke that I do, and often that kind of relaxes people, and helps for them to kind of understand, that it requires, both of our efforts. They have to meet me halfway. It's not me doing stuff for them. I will help them to help themselves. But also for me, working with my clients is very much that we are in this together. We are in a journey together, and I often help my clients in between the sessions, and we have a sort of, not that they come to me and then they go home. We work together over a period of time, and I am there for them as long as they need to kind of be able to carry on themselves. But yeah, these little sort of jokes and just being a bit of a light, more light about it, instead of just kind of being hard on themselves, being because I'm sure they've been told, some people still don't understand sort of mental health, and when somebody's depressed, they just say, oh, get over it, and it doesn't work like that. So I think it's kind of useful to have this connection with the clients, so they feel that there is a help and hope for them, instead of that they have to do everything on their own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I love it. So one of the things that's really interesting about our day and age is that we have technology, and for a lot of people in all over the world, technology is some areas of the world they're just getting it to the way where it works well enough. In other places, it's been long established. But the reason that's important is, although Laura is in the UK, she also is able to work with clients all over the world because of technology. Even right now, we're on Zoom and we're talking, and she can do that same service for you if you're in a position where you could benefit from talking to somebody about your mindset or things that you want help with. Then you can actually reach out to her. Laura, where is the best place to go and connect with you, give you support and help you grow your business, or just find out more about you and follow you on different platforms? Where's the best places to get a hold of you?
Probably would be through my website, because that also allows people to read a little bit how I work, and sort of a little bit more of my background and my story. So website, but obviously I'm on Instagram and Facebook as well. So just Google me. And I have a quite unusual last name, so there is only one Laura Lohk in the world at the moment. So if you Google my name, it kind of comes up.
That's nice. Yeah, for me, there's multiple Samuel Knickerbockers, but there's one, and I don't know who it. I mean, I know his name's Samuel Knickerbocker. He's a Baptist preacher down in the South in America, and he still ranks right up there with me, and so I'm trying to outrank him. Hopefully, he doesn't listen to this, or he might step up his game. But I'm trying to outrank him, honestly, because it's like people pull it up and they're like, "You're a preacher too?" I'm like, "No, that's not me." But the funny thing is, we don't look that different. We look different enough, but his hair, same color. I have to intentionally wear different clothes than what his typical thing that shows up, because there's some confusion. So kind of funny there. But we will have all the links here in the show notes for you to get a hold of her. That's her website, IG, Facebook, YouTube, and make sure that you guys have access to her. If you want to just have a conversation, see if she would be a good fit for you to chat with, please reach out to her. She's awesome. I'm grateful that I've been able to get to know her. I see our business relationship going farther, and we'll maybe have her on again sometime. But we're on to the next section. This is Legacy on Rapid Fire. So I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and we're looking for 1 word to 1 sentence answers. Okay? So you have to keep your thoughts.
That's really difficult for me, because I love to chat.
I know, me too. It's that's why I did it, though, because I found that some of these episodes, they were just going way too long. I was like, okay, we gotta we need these to show up shorter for people. So here they are. First one, what do you believe is holding you back from reaching the next level of your legacy today?
That's a good question. Ooh, I have to really think about that. I think it's still parts of my past. So there are still bits that holding me back, which obviously with my skills, I'm able to work through.
Awesome. So making that more consistent. What do you think the hardest thing you've ever accomplished is?
Becoming a lawyer.
Awesome. And to this point, what do you feel the greatest success is in your life?
Leaving my law sort of world and setting up my private therapy and coaching business.
Fantastic. And what is one of your secrets that you believe contributes the most to your success?
A lot of work on myself and self-development.
Perfect. And then what books would you recommend to the Fuel Your Legacy audience?
The 7 Habits of a Highly Effective Teens or 7 Habits of a Highly Effective Adult, depending which one your readers kind of fancy reading. I do like Rhonda Byrne's books like The Power, and also, very amazing book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway.
Feel the Fear and Do It Anyways?
Yes.
I have not heard of that one.
It was first written in 1997, and it has been revised recently, and it has been actually a very popular book. Over 2 million copies sold worldwide.
Awesome. Well, we will try and get that link to that in the show notes. I'll have to go get that and read it as well. That sounds cool. So here's the final question. This is my favorite question because I think even though we talk about different things that we're doing, we're accomplishing different legacies we're trying to leave throughout this episode, this really makes most of my guests think the hardest. So we are going to pretend that you have died and we're sitting around the table talking to your great-great-great-great-grandchildren. So 6 generations down, we're sitting around the table talking to them. What do you want them to be saying about Laura Lohk? What do you want your legacy to be in 6 generations from now?
So I'm really passionate at inspiring people and giving them hope and helping them to find the purpose. So, if I can even help one person to get sort of inspired by my story or the work that I do with them and help them to really achieve their dreams. And I'm not talking about, earning £1,000 and buying a second-hand car. I'm talking about real dreams that when we were children, we were dreaming, we were proper dreaming, and then we kind of grow up and it's almost beaten out of us that, oh, this is a stupid idea, you'll never get that, and so forth. And I think this is so sad. So I really would love to inspire people to really go for it, to really go for the wildest dreams and inspire them to achieve it. So, I'm in the middle of writing a book and an online course about the same thing. So I suppose my legacy would be that, I've been able to inspire at least some people and give them hope that despite their background, and it could be that, like I said, I'm still, occasionally come up with some challenges in my past that I kind of still come up, but now I know how to deal with them, and now I know how to sort them out. And we are all fellow strugglers. So the fact that you've gone through challenges doesn't mean that you never have the challenges again. It just means that you're able to deal with them better. So yes, I think I'm just, I'm hoping that I'm able to inspire people and just give them a bit of hope that they can achieve anything they want in life.
I love it. I recognize that was going to be her answer from her website, from her Instagram. That's why she's on here, because that is basically verbatim what I'm doing, why I started Fuel Your Legacy. I believe that many people, they'd be doing different things in their life if they had the financial confidence to go live their dream and accomplish their dream. And so I'm approaching the whole her mission. I'm approaching it from a financial perspective. She's approaching it from a therapy coaching perspective, but our goals are absolutely in alignment. And I think she just summed up why, like legitimately, why I do the Fuel Your Legacy podcast. So thank you. I'm so excited for you, where you're going. I'm excited for your course to come out, and we'll definitely have to have you on again when that comes out and your book comes out, and we'll get to rehash that, because I just love it. Love it. Thank you so much for your time. Super appreciate it.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for joining us today. If what you heard resonated with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me so I can give you a shout out on the next episode. And thanks to all those who have left a review. It helps spread the message of what it really takes to build a legacy that lasts. Catch you next time on Fueling Your Legacy.